Imagine walking into a place where you've always felt safe, only to find yourself suddenly and unjustly targeted. A moment that could change everything unfolds in an instant, igniting a fire of outrage and solidarity that echoes far beyond the walls of this mall. This is the story of one man's fight against racism and the power of a community ready to stand up and say, "Enough is enough." Before we dive into today's story, let us know in the comments where in the world are you watching this video from. We'd love to hear from you. Every day, we walk through life trusting that others will treat us with respect. We trust that no matter where we go, kindness and fairness will prevail. But what happens when that trust is shattered? When something so blatant, so wrong, happens right in front of our eyes and no one speaks up? Meet James, a retired teacher, a father, a man who's spent his life giving back to his community. He came to this mall today for one simple reason: to pick up a gift for his granddaughter's birthday. What he didn't know was that this trip would turn into a moment he would never forget, and neither will you. Sarah wasn't looking for trouble that day. She was just another shopper, another face in the crowd. But sometimes life throws us into situations where we're forced to make a choice, to look the other way or to stand up for what's right. It started with a simple question, a question that James had every right to ask, a question that should have been met with a polite answer, but instead it was met with suspicion, hostility, and something far worse: prejudice. Sarah didn't know exactly what was happening, but she could feel it, the tension, the unfairness, the wrongness of it all. She could have turned away, she could have told herself it wasn't her problem, but instead she made a choice that would change everything. Most people didn't notice. It would have been easy not to notice. After all, James wasn't shouting, he wasn't causing a scene, he was just standing there, trying to understand why he was being treated this way. And the security guard? He thought he could get away with it. He thought no one would care, but he was wrong. Sometimes all it takes is one person to speak up, one person to say, "This isn't right." Sarah didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if anyone would back her up or if she'd be ignored. But she couldn't just stand there and do nothing. Today, we're going to show you what happened when Sarah decided to act. We're going to show you how one moment, one seemingly small decision, can ripple outward and make a difference. But be warned, what you're about to see might make you angry, it might make you uncomfortable, and it should, because this is the reality that so many people face every single day. The music transitions to a quieter, more suspenseful tone, the screen fades to black, with a bold white text appearing. What would you do in this situation? Stay with us, because this story isn't just about James or the guard or even Sarah. It's about all of us and the world we want to live in. The air buzzed with the sounds of laughter and conversation, the typical backdrop of a bustling mall. Yet, in the midst of this ordinary day, something sinister was brewing. What was meant to be a simple outing for James had quickly escalated into an encounter that would test the very fabric of human decency. James wasn't doing anything wrong, he was merely a man trying to navigate life, yet he found himself under the scrutiny of a figure meant to ensure safety, not instill fear. As he approaches the entrance, the guard's posture changes, becoming more rigid, more menacing. What is it about James that prompted such a response? Why was he being singled out? Security guard, voice low and intimidating. "Where do you think you're going? You don't belong here." In that split second, the guard's words hung in the air, thick with implication. It was a declaration devoid of reason, filled with prejudice. James, a man who had dedicated his life to teaching and nurturing young minds, suddenly found himself painted as a threat. How could this be happening? Sarah's heart raced as she witnessed the injustice unfold before her. She could feel the anger rising within her, an instinctive urge to intervene. Yet the weight of the moment bore down on her. In that split second, she weighed her options. Should she stand by and watch, or should she take a stand? Sarah told, "Excuse me, why are you stopping him? He hasn't done anything wrong." Security guard thus told, "Mind your own business, lady. This guy looks suspicious." Sarah told, "Suspicious? He's literally just standing here. Are you stopping everyone or just him?" As the words hung in the air, a shift occurred. Bystanders began to gather, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. They had been mere spectators, but now they were witnesses to an unfolding injustice. People started to pull out their phones, recording the confrontation, capturing the moment for all to see. James stood there, feeling the weight of scrutiny from both the guard and the onlookers. His heart raced, humiliation washed over him, but he knew he had to stand his ground. This was not just about him, it was about dignity, respect, and the right to exist without fear. Bystander told, "You're harassing him for no reason, this is disgusting." In that moment, the guard sensed the tide turning. What had started as a display of power was morphing into a public spectacle of resistance. James, emboldened by Sarah's intervention and the support of the gathering crowd, began to find his voice. James told, "I've been coming to this mall for years. I don't understand why this is happening to me." His words struck a chord, a reminder that behind every confrontation lies a human story, a reminder that racism isn't just an abstract concept. It's a reality that affects lives, shatters dignity, and creates fear. And today, that reality was laid bare for all to see. With emotions running high, the question loomed: how far would the guard go to assert his authority? And how far would Sarah and the crowd go to protect James? As the confrontation reached a boiling point, one thing was clear: this was a moment that demanded action, a moment that could either lead to justice or further injustice. In moments like these, the line between silence and action blurs. With the crowd's eyes fixed on her, Sarah felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She wasn't just standing up for James, she was standing up for all those who had ever been marginalized and mistreated. This was her moment, a chance to confront not only the guard, but also the very systems that allowed such behavior to persist. "Security guard," voice raised. "I told you to mind your own business." "This doesn't concern you," James told. "It concerns everyone when someone is treated unfairly. I'm just trying to shop like everyone else." James's words hung in the air, resonating with those who had gathered. It was a reminder that when one person stands up, it can ignite a collective fire. People began to nod, some murmuring their own experiences of being treated unfairly. It was a moment of unity, a moment where empathy rose to the surface. Sarah told, "Look around you. This is about more than just James. It's about every single person who has faced discrimination. It's about all of us. We won't stand idly by and let you bully someone just because you think you can." With each passing moment, the guard's facade of authority began to crumble. He was used to being the enforcer, the one who dictated the rules. But today, the rules were being rewritten right before his eyes. Sarah's words had sparked a movement, a call to empathy that resonated deeply with everyone present. James told, "I've faced this kind of treatment before, and it's dehumanizing. No one deserves to be treated like they're less than anyone else. We all belong here." In that moment, the power of empathy transformed the atmosphere. It was no longer just a confrontation, it was a manifestation of collective strength. This wasn't just about one man's dignity, it was about the shared humanity that connects us all. Each voice joined the chorus, amplifying the message that discrimination has no place in our society. Security guard told, "You're all overreacting, I was just doing my job." Sarah told, "And what kind of job is it to intimidate innocent people? Your job is to keep everyone safe, not to instill fear. You've crossed the line and it's time for accountability." Confrontation breeds discomfort, but it also breeds change, and as Sarah stood firm, refusing to back down, she embodied the spirit of resistance. She was no longer just a bystander, she was a catalyst for change, inspiring others to join the fight against injustice. James told, "I won't let fear silence me. I've lived too long to be pushed around because of my skin color. Today, we stand together." Karen told, "What's going on here?" With the arrival of management, the stakes were raised even higher. Karen was not just an observer, she was a decision maker. The choice she would make in this moment could either reinforce the status quo or challenge the very foundations of discrimination. Sarah told, "We witnessed this guard harassing James for no reason. It's unacceptable. We need accountability." Karen told, "Is this true? Did you profile this man based on his appearance?" The confrontation had reached a critical juncture. The moment of truth was upon them. In a world where accountability is often absent, would this be a moment where justice prevailed? What began as a quiet injustice hidden in plain sight was now impossible to ignore. The confrontation had grown beyond just Sarah and James. The crowd had become part of the story, a living, breathing testament to the power of collective outrage. People who had once been strangers now stood shoulder to shoulder, united by a shared sense of indignation. Injustice has a way of igniting something deep within us, a primal sense of right and wrong that refuses to be silenced. For the bystanders, what they saw wasn't just a confrontation between a security guard and an innocent man. It was a mirror reflecting a larger truth, one that many had experienced themselves or feared they might face one day. Security guard told, "Look, you don't understand. I was just doing my job." This guy looked bystander, mother. "Your job is to keep people safe, not to harass them. My daughter is watching this. What kind of example are you setting?" One voice became two, then three, until the crowd's anger swelled into a chorus of condemnation. The people weren't just standing for James, they were standing for fairness, for decency, for the idea that no one should be judged by the color of their skin or the way they look. Bystander told, "We've got you on video harassing an innocent man. How many others have you treated like this? How many times have you gotten away with it?" Sarah told, "This is what happens when we stand together, when we refuse to be silent. We can't let this happen anymore." For James, this moment was more than a confrontation. It was a reminder that he wasn't alone, that there were people who were willing to fight for what was right. The weight of years of silent endurance began to lift, replaced by the strength of collective action. Bystander told, "As a lawyer, I can tell you right now that what you're doing is illegal. Racial profiling has no place here or anywhere. You should be ashamed of yourself." Karen told, "This situation is unacceptable. I've been listening to everything and I've seen enough. You're supposed to protect people, not intimidate them. We'll deal with this immediately." The crowd's pressure was unrelenting, their demand for accountability clear. This wasn't just about punishing one guard, it was about sending a message that prejudice and discrimination would no longer be tolerated. The guard, once so sure of his authority, now stood powerless in the face of collective outrage. Bystander told, "I'm sorry you had to go through this. No one should ever have to feel like they don't belong. We're here for you." James told, thank you all. This isn't just about me, it's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." Sarah told, "This is what we need to do. Speak up, stand together, and hold the people accountable. Don't let fear keep you silent. Change starts with us." In that moment, the crowd became more than just witnesses. They became advocates, allies, and a force for change. Their collective voices carried a message that echoed far beyond the walls of the mall, a message of unity, of courage, and of the power of standing up for what's right. But this wasn't the end. The guards' actions represented a larger problem, one that wouldn't be solved in a single day. The question now wasn't just about what happened here, it was about what happens next. Will we as a society continue to act when we see injustice? Or will we let moments like this fade into silence? The arrival of Karen, the mall manager, brought a new energy to the scene, a quiet but commanding presence that promised accountability. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Would the guard be held responsible for his actions, or would this escalate into yet another instance where justice was ignored? Karen told explain yourself, what's going on here? Security guard told he looked suspicious, I was just doing my job, trying to keep this place safe. Karen told sir, is this true? Were you doing anything out of the ordinary, or were you just trying to enter the mall? James told, I was just walking in. That's it, I've been coming to this mall for years, and I've never been treated like this before. He stopped me for no reason, and he wouldn't even let me explain. Karen told, is this true? Did you stop him without cause? Security guard told I thought he looked out of place. I was just trying to make sure everything was safe. Young woman told out of place? What does that even mean? He wasn't doing anything wrong, and you know it. Karen told, that's not how this works. Your job is to ensure safety for everyone, not to make assumptions based on someone's appearance. This behavior is unacceptable, and it's not something we tolerate here. The crowd's energy shifted once again, from anger to vindication. Karen's words were a reminder that even in the face of injustice, there are those who are willing to take a stand and make things right. But the question remained, would this be enough? Would the guard truly be held accountable? Or would this moment end with empty words? Karen told, this video makes it very clear what happened here, and it's clear that your actions were not justified. You violated the trust we place in you as a security officer, and you've made this mall a hostile place for a valued customer. This will not be ignored. Security guard, frustrated. You're blowing this out of proportion. I didn't mean anything by it. Karen told, intent doesn't matter here. What matters are your actions and the harm you've caused. You're relieved of your duties effective immediately. Hand in your badge and leave the premises. And just like that, the guard's authority was stripped away. In the face of truth, accountability had prevailed. But for James and the crowd, this moment wasn't just about one man losing his job. It was about sending a message that discrimination would no longer go unchecked. Karen told James, on behalf of this mall, I want to sincerely apologize for what you went through today. You didn't deserve this, and I will personally make sure steps are taken to prevent this from happening again. James told, thank you, I appreciate that. I just hope this can be a lesson, not just for him, but for everyone. Sarah told, you're right, James, this is about more than just today. We all need to do better, and that starts with standing up when we see something wrong. Injustice had been met with accountability, and the crowd's voices had made a difference. But this moment was more than just a resolution. It was a call to action, a reminder that change begins when ordinary people refuse to stay silent. The confrontation was over, and accountability had been served. But moments like this don't simply end. They leave behind a ripple, a weight that lingers in the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. For James, Sarah, and the crowd, this was more than just an incident. It was a reminder of the world we live in and the work that still needs to be done to change it. Sarah told, are you okay? That was a lot to go through. James told, I'll be fine. I've dealt with this kind of thing before, too many times, honestly. But today was different. People stood up for me. That doesn't happen often. Sarah told, I'm so sorry you've had to go through this so many times. It's not fair. It's not right. No one should ever have to feel like they don't belong. In the aftermath of the confrontation, something remarkable began to happen. Strangers, people who had never met James, came forward to offer their support. Their words weren't just empty gestures, they were filled with empathy and a genuine desire to make him feel seen, heard, and valued. woman told, "I'm so sorry you had to go through that. No one deserves to be treated like that. You handled it with such grace, you're an inspiration." James told, "Thank you, that means a lot." Bystander, young man. "I just want to say, I've seen things like this happen before, and I didn't do anything. I stayed quiet. But today I realized how wrong that was. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. From now on, I won't stay silent." James told, "It's never too late to do the right thing. Thank you for saying that. It gives me hope." Sarah told, this is what we need more of. People standing together, speaking out, and showing empathy. It's the only way things will ever change. In moments like these, the power of empathy becomes undeniable. While the confrontation had sparked outrage, the aftermath became a space for reflection, growth, and connection. People who had once been strangers were now united by a shared commitment to making the world a better place. Karen told James, "Sarah, I want to thank you both. James, I'm deeply sorry for what you experienced today. And Sarah, thank you for stepping in and standing up. This incident has made me realize that we need to do more as individuals and as an organization to address these issues. I'll be working on implementing training for all our staff, especially on anti-discrimination and empathy. This can't happen again." James told, "I appreciate that, Karen. It's a start, but it's not just about policies, it's about changing mindsets. That takes time, but it's worth it." As the crowd began to fade, the lessons of the day lingered in their hearts. For some, it was a moment of reckoning, a chance to confront their own silence and complicity. For others, it was a call to action, a reminder that they had the power to make a difference. Sarah told, "You're stronger than most people I know. The way you handled yourself back there, it was incredible." James told, "I've had a lot of practice, but today reminded me that there are good people out there, people like you who aren't afraid to stand up and speak out. That gives me hope." The aftermath of injustice is never easy. It leaves behind scars, memories, and questions that don't always have answers. But it also leaves behind something else, an opportunity to reflect, to grow, and to make changes that ripple far beyond a single moment. Today, James walked away with his dignity intact, not because of the system, but because ordinary people, strangers, refused to stay silent. And while this was just one moment, it was a reminder of what we can achieve when we choose empathy over apathy and action over silence. As the day came to a close, the echoes of the confrontation still reverberated in the hearts of those who witnessed it. James felt a mix of relief and lingering unease, knowing that while he had received support today, the issues of racism and discrimination were far from resolved. He looked at Sarah, who was scrolling through her phone, her expression shifting from reflective to focused. Sarah told, "Look at this, James. People are outraged. They want to know what happened, and they want to help. It's like they're ready to join a movement." James told, "That's great, Sarah, but we need to make sure this isn't just a moment. We need to turn this into something lasting. This is a chance to educate, to create awareness, and to fight for real change." In that moment, James's words ignited a spark in Sarah. They both knew that the fight for justice doesn't end with a single confrontation. It requires ongoing commitment, education, and advocacy. This was just the beginning. Our young man told, "We can't let this be forgotten. We need to organize to make sure our voices are heard. Let's start a petition, hold a rally, something." Sarah told, "I can help with that. I can use my platform to organize a rally, gather people, and spread the word. We can invite speakers, share stories, make it about community and healing." James told, "That's a great idea. We need to bring everyone together, foster dialogue, share experiences. It's time to show that we won't tolerate racism or discrimination in our community." With the seeds of change planted, the crowd began to mobilize. They exchanged the contact information, shared the plans, and promised to stay connected. The momentum was palpable, a community coming together to take a stand against injustice, fueled by the events of the day. Sarah told, "Thank you all for being here today. A week ago, we witnessed something that no one should have to experience, a blatant act of racism. But together, we showed that we are not powerless. Together, we can create a change." In the face of adversity, they had chosen to come together. This rally was not just a response to a single incident. It was a declaration of their commitment to combating discrimination and fostering a culture of empathy and understanding. James told, "We are here today not just to speak, but to listen, to hear the stories of those who have been marginalized. This is not just about me or any one person, it's about all of us standing together against hatred and prejudice." Each voice that joined the rally added to a collective narrative, one that demanded respect, dignity, and equality for all. They recognized that change starts with awareness and education, and that every small act of kindness and courage can have a ripple effect. But this story doesn't end here. It's a call to action for all of us. What will you do when you witness injustice? Will you stay silent, or will you choose to speak up? The time for change is now, and it begins with you. James told, "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Sarah told, "Absolutely, we have the power to make a difference, together." In a world where silence too often prevails, it's time for all of us to break that silence. Together, we can foster a culture of empathy, understanding, and respect for all. The journey may be long, but every step counts. Will you take that step? The music swells one last time, leaving viewers with a lasting impression of hope, unity, and the commitment to making a difference. What would you do if you witnessed such injustice? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a conversation. If you believe in standing up against discrimination, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire change.